Hello everyone. Welcome to the Right to Log Step video. Whether you're brand new to AutomationEdge or you've been building workflows for a while, this video will help you add real visibility into what your workflow is doing at every step. So let's get started. Your workflow ran successfully, but do you actually know what happened inside it? Which path did it take? What values did it process? Did any data get silently skipped? Developers build workflows that are completely silent. They run, they finish, and if something goes wrong, you're left guessing. Logging is how you give your workflow a voice. Process Studio provides ready-made steps to help you write logs. Write to Log is a Process Studio step that lets you write custom messages to the Process Studio and request logs at any point during your workflow's execution. Think of it as placing checkpoints inside your workflow. At each one, you decide what gets recorded. A variable value, which path was taken, what just happened. These messages appear in real time as the workflow runs, so you see exactly what's happening in sequence with live data values. Let me walk you through every field in the Write to Log configuration panel, the workflow step version. Note: AutomationEdge has two different steps that share the name Write to Log, a process entry version and the workflow step version we're covering here. We'll walk through the workflow step version in detail now. Field 1. Step name. This is the unique name for this step instance in the workflow workspace. The same naming discipline applies here as anywhere else. A meaningful name like WTL City Results tells you instantly which step wrote an entry when you're scanning a busy log. Field 2. Log level. AutomationEdge gives you 8 levels from quietest to loudest. Nothing. No logging at all. Error. Only failures get logged. Warning. Failures plus anything unusual that didn't quite fail. Minimal, light, high-level milestones only. Basic, normal operational detail. Your everyday setting. Detailed. A deeper trace of what the workflow is doing. Row level, detailed. Detailed plus row-by-row data as it flows through. Debug. Everything, including the fine-grained detail used for troubleshooting. Field 3. Print headers. A simple checkbox, but it changes how readable your log output is. When enabled, the field names are printed alongside the data values, not just raw numbers and text with no labels. With print header off, you see a row of values and have to guess which value belongs to which field. With print header on, every value is labeled. Seattle 12.7 reads very differently from city is equal to Seattle and temperature is equal to 12.7. Field 4. Limit rows of rows to print. 2 linked controls. Limit rows is the checkbox that turns row limiting on. Number of rows to print is where you specify how many rows to actually print once that checkbox is enabled. This matters far more once your workflow scales up. 5 rows in a log is nothing. 50,000 rows in a log is a problem. For your log file size, for how usable the Process Studio preview pane is, and for how long it takes you to find what you need. Field 5, Write to Log. This is the text label for the logging line itself. Think of it as the heading for the block of field values that follows. You can pass parameters here as well. Field 6, Fields. This is the core difference from the process entry step, so let's be precise about it. Instead of building one message string with variables stitched into it, you select which fields from the incoming data stream get written to the log. This step is built for inspecting rows of data as they flow through your workflow, not for writing a single custom checkpoint message. That's the full panel. 6 fields, 1 mental model. Now let's put it to work on a real workflow. Here's the workflow we'll use throughout this video. This workflow automates weather monitoring for shipment planning. It reads city names from an Excel file, retrieves real-time weather data using the Open Weather Map API, and evaluates whether shipment delivery is feasible or should be flagged due to adverse weather conditions. Here's the input Excel file, 15 cities. Let's execute it and see. The workflow runs. It shows completed. Now let's change the input file. Take a look. 3 incorrect records, 1 has a typo, London instead of London, and 2 are incorrect, Neverland and XYZville. This mix is intentional. In real automation, not every row your workflow receives will be clean or correct. Let's run the workflow as it stands. It fails. The parse JSON step throws an error because the cities that don't exist never got temperature data back from the API. But right now, all we know is that it failed. We have no idea which cities succeeded, which ones failed, or why. That's exactly the visibility gap write to log fills. It won't stop the failure, but it will tell you precisely where and why it happened. Let's fix that. To handle errors from the JSON input step, we'll add a write to log step to its error handling hop. Let's configure the step. Step name, log error city results. Log level error. Print header, checked. Write to log a no API response for cities. Fields. You can click Get Fields and select the cities, or click the column and choose values from the dropdown. We'll specify fields as city, response body, and status codes. We'll add one more, write to log step, this time after calculate weather metrics, to log the cities that succeeded so we know how many weather records came back clean. One note before we configure it. In this demo, we're logging every row so you can see the full output. In practice, you won't always want that. Most production workflows log at major checkpoints, after a key step completes, not after every single row. Let's configure the step. Step name, log city results. Log level, basic. Header, checked. Write to log, successfully updated report for. Fields, city, temperature. The log steps are in place. Let's run the workflow. Look at the log now. For each row, you can see exactly which city was picked up. Pune, Mumbai. Look at this row, London. The error entry stands out immediately. City London was not recognized, and the API returned a city not found message. There's a second error entry as well, where the city wasn't found. In one glance at this log, you know exactly what happened across all 15 rows. 3 failures, 12 successes, and you know precisely which cities caused the failures and why. Without write to log, you would have seen nothing. Also, notice the log level column. Basic entries and error entries are visually distinct. When you're scanning a log with 50 or 100 entries, your eye goes straight to the error entries. That's why choosing the right log level isn't just labeling. It's how you make failures findable fast. Now imagine this wasn't 15 cities, but 5,000. With limit rows enabled and set to 3, the log prints only the first 3 rows, even though all 15 were processed. Let's set the limit and execute. Mumbai, Pune, and Reykjavik are here. The rest aren't shown, not because they failed, but because we capped the output at 3. This is how you keep a production scale log usable instead of flooding it. One more demonstration. Now we'll run the workflow at the nothing level instead, which sits below basic on the ladder we covered earlier. Go to Run Options, select Logging Level as Nothing, and click on Run. Notice the logging section error or basic logs are not written. And to be clear, that's not because there were no errors. It's a basic level step. It's silent because basic is above, nothing level on the threshold, and the runtime level is set below it. This is not a bug, and it's not a broken step. The runtime logging level was set below the step's threshold, so the step never fired. Now, let's see how secret variables are visible in log. Write to log step masks parameters, which are marked as secret. Our API app ID is marked as a secret parameter in this workflow. Let's add it to the write to log field selection and run this again. It completed. Now look at the app ID field in the output. XXXX, not the actual key. No matter what log level or row limit is set, a secret field never prints its real value. Also, Process Studio, you can preview data for your main workflow at any point. But if that data lives inside a child workflow, the Preview tab shows you nothing. Write to log doesn't have that limitation. Place it inside a child workflow, and you get visibility the Preview tab simply can't give you there. As mentioned earlier, the write to log step also writes to the request log. Once you run your workflow from the AutomationEdge server, the entries are written to the request execution log as well. Let's look at the logs on the server. I've already published a workflow and executed it. From here, let's download the execution logs. The download request is visible under Agent Logs. Click Download. Once downloaded, extract the file to access the log. Notice you can see the details here. Now let's do one thing. We'll change the log level. In our workflow, instead of log level error, we'll change it to debug. Let's update the workflow. We'll execute it again. Let's download and extract the logs again. You'll notice the logs for the incorrect cities aren't written. Can you guess why? That's because the agent's log level is configured at info. To write logs at debug level, the agent's logging level needs to be set to debug as well. From agent properties, we can enable the debug log level. Let's navigate to Agent, click Edit, and select the checkbox Enable Debug Logs. We'll execute, download, and extract the logs again. Now you can see the debug logs are being written. That's how the log level and write to log can be used effectively. Before we close, let's highlight two more logging steps. Process Studio provides debug log and audit log. Debug log writes selected workflow variables and fields to the log files for real-time troubleshooting and monitoring. When a workflow runs on AutomationEdge, the output goes to the agent log, or the request log in version 8.1, then later. When it runs in Process Studio, the output goes to the Process Studio log. It's useful during development and testing to inspect data values at specific points in a workflow. You can control the verbosity with log-level settings, debug, info, warn, error, and target specific variables or fields to keep log output focused and manageable. Audit log. Record selected process and workflow variables and fields into the AutomationEdge audit log. Use this step when you need a traceable record of runtime values for compliance, debugging, or operational monitoring. It supports multiple log levels so you can control the verbosity of what gets captured. Workflow designers typically place this step at key decision points or after critical operations to maintain a clear audit trail of how data flows through an automation. Let's quickly recap what we covered today. Write to log, the workflow step version, lets you inspect rows of data as they flow through your workflow, with full control over what gets printed and when. Log level sets a threshold, not a per-line tag. The step only fires when the workflow's runtime level is at or above what you set. Print header and limit rows control how readable and how big your output is. Fields decides exactly which columns get written. And secret fields are always masked, no matter the level or row limit. Write to log writes to the Process Studio logs and to the request logs. Thank you for watching.